So recently I was watching the Black Lives Matter video posted by the USA Sports Stacking Club on YouTube, and it's been subject to quite a bit of controversy over the past 24 hours or so. So I thought I'd do a video which highlights my thoughts on the video overall. So to start off with, there are some things in the video I do tend to agree with. I think one in particular is that the person whoever was doing the video said that the media has quite a lot of influence over our lives, and I would say yes, of course. It's basically the way we get the news. So, for instance, with the coronavirus pandemic, BBC News has been providing updates here in the UK, and they do have quite a lot of influence over stuff. I'm not sure what the situation is over in the US because, well, obviously I don't live there, and I'm not particularly up to date with news stations there. So I'm afraid I'm just going to be speaking for the UK when I talk about the media. But yes, the media has a lot of influence, but also with social media, with Twitter being quite a prime example for where politicians go to post stuff. And I know that recently Trump's Twitter account had been violated for infringing the glorification of violence policy. I'm not too sure about the decision, but I've sort of left off that, I guess. Anyway, going back to the video, there were some interesting points made. As far as statistics go, I'm not completely sure about them, but as far as I can see it in the book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reniero Lodge, there was a fact that stated that at Oxbridge universities here in the UK, people from ethnic minorities are less likely to be accepted into a university than white people, which is kind of unsurprising given that racism still very much exists, but there you go, that's inequality for you. I think there are some things though that I think were a bit of a red flag for me thinking about it. So if you don't know me, I'm quite pro-abortion. So say if a baby was made as a result of some kind of attack, I would consider that abortion is acceptable at that stage. I don't know whether the person making the video was anti-abortion, but it seemed that was the case, considering that she was talking about black babies being aborted or something. It was quite strange. I can't say I can't say I disagree with abortion. I mean, it's not like babies are living anyway if they haven't been born yet. It's just a case of whether the mother wants to keep the baby or not. But then I sort of come to my main issue, where the issue of white privilege comes up. And when I was watching the video, there was a sense that the woman was trying to defend her position, talking about not being ashamed that her of working to get in where she was. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but then that just sort of shows white insecurity. It's basically showing white privilege. It's a perfect case of showing that white privilege exists. If you are insecure about your position, you are clearly privileged. Like, fact, it's just a thing. If you feel at any point that you have to defend your privilege, then you are privileged. And that's one of the main things that drives institutionalized racism, which exists, and I can give you a couple of examples of how institutionalized racism has been integrated into our society. So, for example, the murder of Stephen Lawrence. After the murder, it was concluded many decades later that there were several opportunities the police could have taken but didn't take because of institutionalised racism in the police itself. And we've seen over the past few months people being murdered by the police, particularly black people. Now I come back to the point about the news. I'm not sure what the statistics are. So I think I'll just leave that sort of sector and just go back to my point about white privilege. And institutionalized racism, it exists. There's no doubt about that. It very much exists in our society. And what's also interesting is that when I was looking down the comments section, I noticed that another stacker made an interesting point about being black doesn't necessarily mean you are free from racism. Again, I don't know what the statistics are, but that is most definitely true. One prime example over in the UK being the politician Priti Patel, who was the Foreign Secretary in the UK. She is of Asian descent, but she is quite clearly racist because of her policies of immigration and calling migrant workers or whatever the boat people or whatever, which is clearly a horrendous thing to say. And it's clear that Trump has made some horrifically racist remarks in the past, like calling Mexicans rapists and saying that they're bringing crime. Like, what gives you the right to dismiss an entire nation of people as rapists or drug abusers just because of your own personal prejudices, as I see it? It really doesn't make a lot of sense. So, yeah, that's just my take on it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think my main point was about white privilege existing, and I think that video kind of exemplifies that. And if you've watched the video and you agree with some of the policies, fine. I'm not gonna bash you or anything, but I would just consider the fact that that video does seem to be encouraging white defence, and that's really not a trap we want to fall into. It's also a case of saying that it's not about white people at this stage. It's about black people and giving them more rights, because historically they haven't had much of them, to be honest. We've had the triangular trade. I'm not sure if you've studied this in school, but basically slaves were shipped off to many parts of the world. They were kept in horrific conditions and many died. It's one of the examples of how institutionalized racism has evolved, and it's really something that needs to be rooted out. So that's basically it.